Welcome back to Hello Nigeria. It is our very first Friday in 2018 and we're having our very first celebrity here with us. He is a presenter and producer extraordinaire. He is one who we've watched on several platforms. Today we've brought him to you to tell us his story by himself. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with much joy and pleasure that I introduce Osakioduwa. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how many times have people called you Ikechukwu?
I've stopped counting now. Like now, even, one day, I'm saying, thank you. I even answer them now. I'm tired of fighting it.
So your full name isn't Ikechukwu?
No, my full name is Ikwamosa. It's a strong Edo name. One of those names that you call out and people are like, well.
Do you want to tell us what it means?
It means I thank God. It's a lovely name.
Oh, that's a great
It's got a lovely meaning. It means I thank God.
Yeah, also, something else I was going to ask you when Oli finished was, how does it feel being on the other end of introducing people?
It's very strange.
Flowery and,
I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know.
You're not in this position.
This is awkward, I feel like flipping in, like, so what are you doing? Like,
okay, so right now, I'm working on doing some projects. All right, go on the hot seat right now, so it's your turn.
Very straight, I don't know how to sit down, just like,
no, don't worry, you're fine. Yeah. You're fine.
Thank you. You should say that to me more often. It's good for my self-esteem.
Okay, I'll say that again. Okay, so let's go back to how many years ago, Ike as a little boy. What were your dreams? What did you always want to be?
Well, there was this girl called Maribel that I wanted to marry back then. She was Filipino. And I thought that was the height of my aspiration in life. Wow. you asked, that was, it was then she left town, then it was 3 girls. It was Fatima, Jamila Auta, Jamila Farouk, and Sylvia Idako. I thought I'd definitely marry one of the 3, if not all 3. I was checking it at the time to see what would happen, whether there'll be a new law that would make it legal. When that didn't work out, I thought, okay, maybe radio,
It was always part of the plan.
Yeah, no, well, I wanted to own a radio station. I wanted to do radio. I didn't see that. It was my initial dream. But if I'm going to be quite honest, I'm not trying to be like all those people. I've been focused since I was 6. No, it was my first dream, work dream, but then I forgot about it,
Now, you made Wild Child a household name when you started on Rhythm, at the time, and you're still there so many years, and it's amazing how you've been consistent, even on radio, despite the fact that you ventured into new, terrains and conquered those terrains as well. So tell us, for many people who are watching, in those days, radio wasn't as popular as it is today.
No, it wasn't.
What got you into radio? How did you start? What was the reception like?
I was studying economics, right? And I was doing econs because it was convenient. Yeah, then I realized I was about to graduate, and they started asking me all those questions. What do you want to do? Have you started ICANN? Why don't you go and start your first set of exams with ICANN? Banking, you could do this. We know this person. And then I realized, oh, look, if I don't plan my life, my entire family was going to plan it for me. They were all thinking about, okay, ICANN and banking. And so I thought, look, I have to figure out what I want to do. And then I remembered my first dream, which was radio. So I went everywhere to apply, even here at Cool FM. I tried different radio stations. I tried Rhythm first, but they refused me. Then I tried a bunch of radio stations and eventually got to Rhythm and just sat down there for 3 months till they hired me.
Wow.
Yeah. They got sick of me. I literally stayed there for 3 months. I would come every morning, sit down in the lobby. The guy was like, look, you're a good guy. I've heard your demo. It's nice, but we don't have space. We don't have space in Lagos. We don't have space in Abuja. So unless we sack somebody, I don't see how you're going to get the job. So I'm like, well, somebody's going to misbehave someday, And on that day, I want to be top of mind. So I was literally sitting there in the reception for 3 months. I got real friendly. People would come and ask me for direction. Sometimes the receptionist would leave her desk. I'm like, please just, in case anybody comes. I got that way with them, and eventually they had an opening and they hired me.
Who would have known? And how was your transition to radio, knowing that you didn't study journalism or broadcasting in school?
I'm going to be
How was your first day at work?
I'm going to be very honest. My first day at work wasn't what I thought it would be. My first day in the studio, I remember they brought me in and I'm not going to say who he is because he's still popular and he's on TV, but they brought me in and they said to the guy who was there, this gentleman's going to understudy you, teach him everything, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, great, yeah, lovely. Oh, great, yeah. And then I sat down and then the head of programs walked out and he said, now you shut up, you sit down, you don't speak unless you're spoken to, sit in that corner. That's what he said to me. So I was like, wow, okay. So I sat in that corner for 6 months, nothing happening, not learning anything, just sitting back, and in the minds of the producers and everybody, I was learning the job, but this guy was hostile, didn't like me from the jump. So eventually what happened was they decided to put me on a show by myself. Now bear in mind I hadn't learned anything by this time. So my first day controlling the radio studio, the station, the DJs had seen me in the studio, so they too also thought I had learned.
Here for quite some time.
He should be able to find his way around the studio. So my first show, there's some pre-recorded show playing, which is a 30-minute show. I came on, I was chilling, and so DJ plays the pre-recorded show, leaves, and I didn't know he had left the building. So I'm very chill, thinking this guy's gonna guide me through everything, waiting for him to come back, and it's like 10 minutes to time. I'm like, where's the DJ? Some security guard goes, oh, he's left. Yeah, so you're on your own. Good luck. And I got in there, and I didn't know how to play the music. We used to use LPs back in the day, so records. Yeah. So I would put I put my first record on, tried to play it, started playing from the middle of the song, and they had swear words on it. I ripped it off without lifting the pin, so like, and then I threw in a CD, pressed play on the CD. It was a Christmas song in June, so it was, surprised to say that it was movie or a book. It was a disastrous first day. I was sure I was fired by the next day, but they kept me on, so either they didn't listen or they were just very, very kind to me, so.
So yeah. I just think that this has taught us a lot of lessons, too many lessons. One, talking about patience, consistency.
Yeah, but also don't be the guy who shuts up and sits in the corner like I did. Insist on learning. Like I wouldn't have had such a terrible first day if I fought that guy. I was just afraid to fight him because I was new. I was a new guy on the scene. I didn't want to offend anybody. I don't want anybody feeling threatened. So I was like, okay, no problem.
Yeah, and then people too should be welcoming and just teach you're not going to be there forever.
Yeah, exactly. He moved on eventually, so.
I mean, look at who would have been a part of your success story, and you'd have definitely given him credit every time you spoke.
Definitely.
Now we have to
I can't tell you his name.
We have to put it.
I think I would ask you when we go off air to tell us his name. But if you're out there and you've had a terrible first day at work, we hope that this would encourage you to let you know that it's not always bad, even if it starts out bad. Now let's talk about your transition to TV.
Yeah.
How did you make that transition, and what was your very first TV show?
Was it TV or hosting?
It started with hosting.
Yeah.
My transition from radio started from hosting. And I have to give credit, I can actually give credit to somebody. Femi Showolu is a known name on radio and voiceovers in the industry. He's very popular. He was my head of programs at the time, and he was also on radio himself. And he said to me, listen, you do great on TV. So the first thing he said to me was, have you tried events and stuff? I was like, he's like, you're funny, you can do it. So he's like, okay, listen. He and JJ decided that, okay, you know what? There's this event organized by some company, Junior Achievement of Nigeria, and they're having a Chevron. We want you to go host it. We've told them that you will host it. I'm like, okay. Did you all discuss money with them too? They're like, no, you're going to do this one because you just need to get into the industry. So they threw me out there. I hosted. It was great. Immediately after that, somebody was holding a charity event to raise money for an aspiring governor. So they got me to host that. And that was my first big job, and it was amazing. And then TV was the same thing. I was sitting in the studio, and Femi Showolu came to me and said to me, you've got to go for an audition that Mnet is having. I was like, no. I loved the radio. You could hide behind it. You didn't have to dress up. I would come to work sometimes in pajamas. I was just I loved radio. And he was like, no, you'll do great on TV. You've got to do it. And so I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, the audition is tomorrow. I'm like, I'm on the radio tomorrow. He's like, I'm giving you the day off. Go for the audition. So in my mind, I had time to visit Babe. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go for this audition. Will he know if I don't go? He's not the one handling it. So I was determined not to go. It was like he knew. He walked out of the studio, then he came back and said, oh, if you don't go, I'll know. I was like, okay. Well, there goes that. And I went for the audition and got the job to host Studio 53. So that was my first break foray into TV, and it was courtesy of Femi Showolu.
Brilliant. Now you talk about, people can hear your story and think, wow, this man has had a breeze. I mean, you started radio, yes, you're consistent, yes, you had a mean person start off with, but then, you just think Femi Showolu said, go and host an event, the door was open for you. Was it really that easy? Or what were you've mentioned one challenge, but for some people who are watching, who also are looking to diversify and might not have the Femi Showolus in their lives, what would you say about turning your passion into profit? And
I don't want to discourage people out there too much, but the truth is, it's never easy. My first 6 months, I didn't get paid at all. I was, just understudying, and they didn't think, at the time, the company policy wasn't to pay people who were understudying, even though they were considered a staff. You were like reserve officers training. You would you would, if there was a war, you would go, but, you know, as long as you're not fighting, we're not paying you, you know. So that's how it was. I was there for the first 6 months not earning. For the next 6 months, I was earning less than the cleaners were earning. Yeah, so it wasn't a glorious start, you know. Then there was a period at the Rhythm where, not Rhythm, at the station in Nigeria, basically, where there was a fuel scarcity. The first major one that hit Nigeria. And it got really, really, really bad. And so most of the presenters were allowed to stay off. And they said, look, if you can't make it, we understand. And they had skeletal systems running. What I did within that time was I moved closer to Rhythm. And I hosted 12 hours on the radio for a space of about 2 weeks.
Wow.
Every day, 12 hours every day. I would come in, I would do 6 to 6, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 12 hours every day for about 2 weeks. That was where I got my big break to host an afternoon show, host a daytime show. Before I was on the graveyard. So I was on 10 p.m. to midnight. And then after that, they just decided, well, he's done it, so he can do the belts now after I did the 12-hour slot. Nobody else was willing to do it, and it was for no money.
You know, I read a lot of biographies and stories of successful people. Your story reminds me of General David Dwight Eisenhower, two-time American president. He was in the middle of the Great Depression. He was lieutenant colonel in the army. They were not paying much money. He got a job offer as a clerk. He refused it, and it was seen as suicidal. Why won't you take this? They were going to pay him 6 times what he was earning in the army. If he had taken that job, he wouldn't be a two-time American president. Yeah. And if you had decided that, look, I'm not getting paid, why am I wasting my time here? My first day was bad, things were terrible. Why am I just hanging on? You won't be who you might not be who you are today. So what kept you going, and what did you hold on to? Did you have so much confidence in your abilities that, look, I'm gonna make it?
I grew up shy, so I didn't, this wasn't natural for me. There was passion for it. I loved it. I loved what I was doing. And as much as my friends who had left Unilag at the time were earning maybe 3-4 times what I was earning when I eventually started to earn, what kept me was the passion. You know, it was just that passion that this is what I love. And learning to be proud of what you like and not be ashamed of it. You know, that you can apply that to any area of your life. The person you date, you can apply it to, you know, the clothes you wear. Love what you like, you know, and be proud of it. Be proud of it. Be willing to say, this is who I am, you know, this is me. And for me, that's what it was. It was finally taking a stand for myself. I was shy growing up, and I wanted to come out and say, look, you know, I want to do radio. And it was a despised profession at the time. It wasn't fancy back then, you know. It was for dropouts, you know. So I was just happy to say, this is what I want to do. I've got a degree so I can work, but this is what I want to do. This is what I like.
And you've gone beyond doing radio to doing several other things. So you do radio, you do TV, you were one of the most popular hosts of Big Brother Africa. And then from there, you've also moved on. I know how challenging it can be to be in front of the camera. Yeah. And then you added being behind the camera as well. So presenter, producer, how many hours do you have in a day? We all have to. I
have to add one more that he just unveiled recently, actor as well. He's now gone in front of the screen as well. And I was really, you know, excited and surprised to see that this man is just a man of many hats.
The question is, what can you not do? You seem to be able to do everything.
Well, he's a stand-up comedian as well. I've seen him.
Yes,
please, I do everything. I take bookings for all jobs. You know, whatever it is, I do it all. No, but what it is for me is, I think it's something it's a principle I grew up believing, that everybody should have more than one stream of income. I hate to get all biblical on it. I don't know how allowed that is on the show. But then, you know, like when you read the Bible story, the Bible talks about how there's in the Garden of Eden, which in my mind speaks of like a promised land. You know, there were 4 rivers, and each of them flowed by precious stones. So if you should have 4 streams of income, and each of them should be able to do enough for you. You know, so it could be acting, it could be radio, it could be TV. You shouldn't depend on just one thing. You should have at least 4 things that bring in money, and all of them should bring in good money, not just any. They should all flow by precious stones. So that's how I've always thought of life. You know, like I can't sit down and say, oh, I'm a great radio presenter. Oh, that's all I do. No, I've got to do more, so that when the new radio presenters come in, I don't feel threatened. So I'm not that guy who tells somebody, shut up and sit down.
Or you cover your laptop.
You know, you're like, you're not going to learn this from me.
And I think you have to share with us how the journey with starting your own show Highlights with Ike, has it been for you? What are the lessons you've learned in producing your own show?
Oh, well, I've learned that the team, I learned it from Big Brother. Big Brother is probably the hugest show you'll ever work on in terms of the team. There are about maybe 170 people working on team, from cameramen, audio people, firemen, all sorts. Everything is covered, you know, and it's a big, big team. The research, the R&D that goes into it's crazy, you know. So you learn that the team is so important in making the success of the show. And it's easy to get in front of the camera and be the guy in front of the camera and think that the success is me. But you learn that from the show, that, look, you're totally dependent on everybody else behind the scenes, the editors that make you look nice and cut the show nice so you don't have a fashion incident, the guy who's switching, you know, all of that stuff. They make the show what it is. So I learned that from Big Brother. And then when I decided to produce my own show, it was the one thing that I was looking at. I wanted to get the right team. I wanted to have the right people working, people who had the vision, people who were team players. And I found them, and it became easy to host a show. You know, I wanted to do it, and you've got to grow beyond just being the guy in front of the camera. I mean, some people are able to do it forever, but I think I'm a kingmaker. I'm not so much of a king. You know, like my gift is to find people to do what we do. You know, and help them to shine as well. And if you're that person, then it becomes easier for you to get a new guy, teach him how to do it, and then move on to something else, so that you don't feel threatened by his progress. You don't feel threatened by the fact that he's going to be the next host of the show that you're on right now.
I testify.
Then one other thing I could testify to is you're very meticulous about the quality of work you put out. And we live in a society where people start earning some money, they become lax about standards, and they drop it. How do you keep that standard?
That passion. You know, I learned something from my dad. My dad once had the chance to sign up on a contract that was going to be, they were bringing in old equipment. They wanted him to sign off on it and say it was new, and he didn't, and he lost out on millions of dollars. And I remember asking him, like, so what were you thinking, man? Because, you know, I could have used some of that cash. You know? And he said, no, what if you work this job tomorrow and you have to deal with this equipment? And they'll say that I bought it. Your dad bought this equipment, you know. And I thought about it, you know, you have to leave something behind for the generation come behind you. We have to make strides that they can surpass. We have to do things that they can be proud of, you know. My son might be in the industry tomorrow and watch a show that I did. I don't want him to go, wow, my daddy was whack. You know, I don't want that. I want him to be able to look and say, this was amazing during its time, you know. There are songs you listen to today, and even though they were done 20 years ago, you know, this song was far ahead of its time. The lyrics were tight, the beat was thick, you know, so you could tell they were onto something here, well ahead of its time. And there's songs you're listening to today, and you know, next year we're not going to hear anything about this song. You know,
okay.
This song is done.
So we've run out of time, but very quickly before we let you go. Lots of people are very scared about getting married because they think marriage will affect their career, but yours, that doesn't seem to be the case.
No, I found the right one.
How have you been able to, you know, navigate through the waters of marriage and building your career as well?
I've got to say props to my wife. She's the quintessential entertainer's wife. She's the best out there. You can't find, I mean, they don't make them anymore, so just settle for second best. Yeah, so, but no, I think, honestly, what it is for me is the fact that I've kept it real with myself. I'm not one of those flashy entertainers. I'm not trying to fly first class all the time if I can't afford it. You know, I'm not trying to live a life that I can't afford. I've kept it real, and I found someone who's willing to keep it real with me. So marry a friend, not just a lover. You can find lovers anywhere, you know, but a friend is difficult. A friend is the person who will tell you, oh boy, let's hold this money. You know, school fees is coming. You know, like a friend is someone who will tell you that, listen, no, you don't need to answer that person on Twitter. Chill. You know, let it go. Let it go. Don't be proud. Leave it. You're just arrogant. That's why you want to fight. Don't fight. And I found someone like that who's really, really good at leveling me. You know, I think that's what everybody should look for, a friend.
Shout out to the beautiful woman who has successfully kept his head level. Thank you very much for all that you do. And it's been a fabulous interview. There's so much more questions we want to ask.
Thank you so much, guys.
We've run out of time. Aya, what do we have today?
I've learned so much. I think this is like, I mean, I was taking notes in my head and I can't wait to finish so I can go and write it down.
I actually would watch this interview again.
I wouldn't forget. But something I learned, sorry, I know my producer wants to kill me right now, but I have to say this because it's something that I keep thinking about, which is what you said once, that the higher you go, the more humble you should become. Yeah. And I think that's something that you've done and led by example really well.
Thank
and
you.
for many people who are watching, who are looking to climb the ladder of success, know that the higher you go, the security guard, anyone there, make sure you're polite to them. Even if you're not getting anything back in return, just be good to people and be humble.
Words and marbles spoken by Aya.
No, from him, I'm just quoting him.
All right, thank you very much for joining us. Follow us on all our social media platforms. Remember that the conversation continues on social media. Thank you so much, Ike, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For those of you who want him to be your mentor, you can stalk him on Instagram and send him DMs. Okay? We leave you in the hands of Myro Essay.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love am.